All right, hi everybody. This is Caleb, and I'm here with my buddy Jason Verbelli. Jason is going to give us the rundown on the SEG, the Searl effect generator. He's also going to go into a little bit about the Searl technology, give us some updates, and we're kind of just chatting, kind of freestyling it. We'll probably have some questions at the end of the hour. We'll probably talk for an hour or so. Jason's been my friend for a while. He's been my buddy, and if you haven't heard of Jason, I really highly suggest you get into his work because if you're into free energy or alternative energy, I should say, and any of the Tesla, any of the alternative science, to be honest, just if you're into anything important, you might want to check out Jason Verbelli. He's got. I guess we'll go over some links at the end. But for now, Jason.
Hello. Thank you for joining us, and for everybody who's going to be seeing this later on. Just really, it's an informal talk with Caleb and myself, and whoever wants to join in and listen. But I just wanted to really answer some questions about the SEG technology that I can try to tackle, or let people know about some links that I put together and the PDF, and just to put the word out there and let people know that John Surl is still here and very much active and writing and trying to get the technology out. So that's part of the deal. I've been putting together a lot of information, like just added a bunch of pages to this PDF, trying to give people understanding to the history of John Surl, the dynamics of his technology, to the best that I understand it from listening to him and from going through his Law of Squares books, and just from my own work for the last 2 years with Fernando Morris and with John Surl at the lab in San Diego. So I don't know. Want to ask me questions, or you just want to let me ramble, or
I think for people that may not be familiar with the Searl technology, maybe we should give them a little rundown, kind of a general idea, so that they can imagine what we're going to be talking about here. The Searl effect generator functions along the principles of linear induction motor, but designed around a circular track for continuous motion of movable rotors. It is a magnetic prime mover of electromagnetic multi-phase cylindrical rollers over fixed stator rings and free of any mechanical wear or friction. That's what really sets it apart from most of the other so-called alternative energy devices that are out there. This thing, in my opinion, from all my research, is actually tangible, and I think that's what I'd really like you to go into, so that you could explain kind of just a general overview. I mean, the information's out there for people that really want to learn more. We'll give you links, but to go into really why this is, that people should spend more time researching this and really understand it, and the implications. That's what I kind of would think people would want to get into. So, Jason, tell us what. I mean, it's in your own words, describe the mechanics of it if you can, and what it's made of.
Sure. Well, thanks for that. Let me try to at least post a couple links for people in the chat, so that they can have some context, and then
Cool.
I'll be posting this, whatever forum this is on later. I guess look in the video description below or to the side or whatever, and then there's going to be a bunch of links so that you can have context to what I'm talking about, so that you can reference and actually see, because like Caleb tried to introduce that and he's reading about it. Linear induction motor, circular track, magnets. Okay, what the heck is he talking about? So I put some links in the chat box, a whole bunch of them. If you look at PDF lecture on John Surl, it's like a slideshow I put together, and that will give some history and basics as to what the SEG is and how he came to developing this. So quickly, just like read through a couple pages. Who is Professor John Roy Robert Searle? He was born May 2nd, 1932, raised in an orphanage, and was poorly treated by his adoptive family. He was beaten until he was mostly deaf. He could barely hear, and he was just his left ear. It's kind of amazing, actually. He's like, you could be sitting on a table like with him, and he'll lean against the table when you're talking. He'll like read your lips and sort of feel the vibration through the table and know what you're saying. It's like he can't really hear the vibrations in his ear, but he can interpret the vibrations, like if he's touching you, if he's next to you. It's amazing how his brain adapted. But he was left to think for himself at a very young age. In the orphanage, he wasn't programmed by schools. People figured that oh, he's deaf anyway, he can't hear us, so why bother teaching him? Leave him to himself. It's like he's just treated like crap his whole life, really. But he had reoccurring dreams that led him to develop a different understanding of nature, math, and energy. And he had these 2 alternating dreams twice a year for 6 years, starting, I think it was age 6. And first dream had to do with hopscotch squares, and he was hopping along on those and interpreted his dreams of hopscotch with this 5,000-year-old math in a matrix, like almost like Sudoku. And he has written, like, from what I understand, about 100 books, over 100 books on this, what he calls the law of squares, that he interpreted from these reoccurring dreams as a very young kid. And then the other dream had to do with him climbing to the roof of this attic in a barn. And when he got to the roof of the attic, there was like these bales of straw laid out, almost like the spokes of a wheel, and it's set on fire. He's in the center of this wheel of fire, and in his dream, he's like, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. As long as you're in the center of the ring, all the energy is around you and you're okay. And he somehow interpreted these reoccurring dreams to these 100 books of information and this understanding of energy, time, space, and a whole lot more. It's just incredible. And I've gotten the opportunity and the honor of like sitting down with him at length and trying to discuss this with him. Most of it goes over my head or in one ear and out the other, but filmed quite a bit of it and listened to it a lot, and tried to read his books, and still am. And every time I do, I get something new. So it's just, it's so voluminous, the amount of material this man has. It's insane.
I agree with that, man. I started to get into the law of squares. Oh man, that I think it's going to take me a while just to grasp all the little implications of the law of squares book. And anybody who's interested in well, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the Seder squares? I mean, there's all these magic squares have like this interrelationship to.
It's all the same. It's all the same stuff. It's a form of math that was abandoned thousands of years ago, before algebra was developed, and which is like 2,000 years old at least. And so this is at least 5,000 years old, and what John Surl says is just a different way of doing things and calculating things, and it's how he developed the SEG, the weights of the materials, the correlations of what materials and what order, everything has to do with this law of squares matrix, this 4x4 square specifically that he has written many, many times and referred to. So if you go through his material, he talks about the same types of stuff over and over. If you really pay attention and read, then you like, look it up, start researching, and like, man, this guy's talking some advanced stuff. Getting back to here, when he was 14 years old, he was hired as an electrical engineer. 14 at British Rewind Electric Repairs Limited in London, England. And he experimented with his ideas and had millions of dollars of equipment, teams of people. Backed resources and an environment for free, and was able to use all of their stuff to make this device. And people have the misconception, or some people at least used to, that he somehow used scrap material and just used regular magnets and put this thing together and it magically worked. Nah.
Yeah.
There was like multi-million-dollar infrastructure used in order to develop this technology very slowly. And it didn't work just the first time he used it. It just it was uncontrollable. It wasn't until years later that he actually was able to experiment later and learn how to control the unit by adding the dielectric layer, which I'll explain that. The SEG is a ringed device. It's a set of rings, concentric rings, with these magnetic other rings rolling around it. It's like a stator stationary with other rings rolling around it. And I have animated GIFs, diagrams, pictures, and stuff all throughout these links so people can see exactly what it looks like. And it's really kind of beautiful to look at, just geometrically perfect, really.
Yeah, they're actually really amazing. Actually, you know what? If you want, you can screen share some of these pictures as you talk about the device if you'd like. If it makes it easier, I don't know. It's up to you.
Yeah. Sure. Why not, actually? Let's do some of this. Let's check it out.
Because those, whoever was working on those GIFs, man, all the new images are really awesome, and I'm really excited now that all the 3D capabilities and all the different programs are now starting to finally catch up to times. We can start animating these things so it can really be visual for people.
Cool. Yeah, I'm still learning. Sorry, folks. Sorry, still learning this program. This is one of my first Google Hangouts. So once I start to get the hang of this, I'll be able to present the information a lot more effectively and not fumble. So bear with me. But this is what I'm trying to read and let people see. So he, as a very young boy, had access to this multi-million-dollar infrastructure with people much older than him and very educated who helped him. He had these crazy ideas, and they just happened to have the facility to build it, and it actually worked. So let's see, John had many jobs over the years: electronic fitter at Midlands Electricity Board, prototype wireman for the Royal Air Force, as well as wiring systems on naval gun control computers used by NATO. He was a chemist's assistant. He was almost studied neurosurgery and brain surgery as a 16-year-old, but his adoptive parents wouldn't sign the release forms so that the doctors could take custody. So they refused to let him go. So there went that reality for him, and instead he became a electrical apprentice instead of the medical. So imagine what else he might have discovered in the medical field that might have been as equally uh, amazing as the electrical aspects of this device. So it's the man was like a savant and a prodigy.
You could say that.
He's like, seriously, he's he's like the most brilliant man that I have ever met, and the most heartwarming and like real, like a real person.
Yeah, and that comes. That's a pretty big deal coming from Jason Verbelli too. I tell you what.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'll tell you about John Searl, man. He's he's genuine for sure. And there's just so much material. It's just it's ridiculous. So get back to here the SEG. What is it? Uh, SEG is a linear motor operating on a frictionless magnetic bearing. So you have this stator ring with magnets floating around this other ring, and it's generating electricity. And at the same time it's generating electricity, it is drawing in energy, heat energy, or what heat John Searle describes as heat is disorganized electricity. It's random, random energy. It's like completely chaotic. And what the device does is it makes all of that energy in phase. Random energy is heat, so if this makes it ordered, there is no heat. It's just different. It operates differently. And then
In other words, it's coherent, right? It takes something incoherent and makes it coherent. It lines it up.
exactly Brownian motion or incoherence, randomness, chaos. It's just that's the way nature is. It's completely random and chaotic. You know, you look in a small scale, in a microscope, the smaller you get, the more random the motion is. So the smaller you get, you know, there's still power down there, and even according to mainstream models, these so-called electrons, they say it has mass and it has kinetic energy, and that's what this device does. Is it just cycles the energy, just like a hydroelectric dam cycles the kinetic energy of water. Water goes in the reservoir, it's cycled through, its energy is harnessed to turn turbines, that energy is decreased in the water, which then shoots out the other side. And then what happens? It evaporates and then rains back in the reservoir. And then you have a complete cycle. It costs money to develop all that, but the energy that you can harness thereafter is free, with maintenance costs here and there.
Right.
But with this device, there is no friction and there's no maintenance costs. So the energy you reap after the multi-million-dollar infrastructure is set up to be able to develop, to produce and manufacture these things. It doesn't cost any money to fuel or to charge it or to maintain it. It's like a one-time fee. So that's why we don't really say free energy, because it's not free, and it's not free in the regards that it's not producing energy out of nowhere. It's a conversion, just like a hydroelectric dam isn't producing energy from nothing. It's dependent upon the water in there, just like the SEG is dependent upon these so-called electrons and their incoherent state around the device. And
exactly. Yeah, we definitely need to make that a point, because a lot of people, it seems like a lot of people are still using the terminology free energy, and a lot of other people get really angry about that. And what we're really talking about is, if there's a cost to everything. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, so to speak. Well, there's all we're doing is changing one energetic process into another, really, so to speak. So there's a side effect. There's always a there's always an equal and opposite reaction, right? Or an
Oh
interchange.
yeah, most always, yeah. um, yeah, most always there is.
Keep going.
Unless you talk about rotating superconductors or something weird, but everywhere else there's an equal and opposite reaction. So what I'm showing here, this diagram is just to show the differences between how these rollers are going around the stator, and the different forces acting on it. Now people have said, now how could John Searl have made this device if neodymium magnets weren't invented until 1982? So, well, John Searle never used neodymium magnets. That's why. He used ferrite magnets and used his own blend. But he used neodymium as the core. The lanthanide is the core, raw neodymium. So that goes neodymium, a dielectric like Teflon or nylon, and then
Mm-hmm.
the magnet, and then copper. So you have
Right.
to have these four materials layered in conjunction with each other concentrically. Now these magnets are not regular magnets. They're not just north and south on them. They have like a variation or a glitch or a wave. I wouldn't even really call it a wave on it because it produces a wave once it's in motion. But there's like this variation on the magnet, and then when the magnet spins, it's interacting with the stator ring, which is also magnetized very uniquely. Um, all known magnets are made with the same process, the same sloppy process using high capacitive discharge, using DC, uh, probably 60 hertz, not accounting for really anything. They just hammer the metal with a lot of electricity, and then they get a magnet. It
Mm-hmm.
has north, it has south. That's it, and that's all. That's all people really know. And you can put those north and south on top and bottom, or left and right, where you can have them, multi-poled, uh, or inside outside. But that's all people know is hitting a piece of metal with a high capacitive discharge to get a magnet. That's it.
Yeah.
Now, John Searle's process is a little different. He uses like a AC and DC together, and it produces this variation or this I don't know, this difference on the magnet. The magnets itself are produced in a uniform way. It means like it's equal. It's produced in an equal way, which should produce an equal result, but it doesn't. Why? Nobody really knows why, and nobody has really done much experimentation on it. There's not much literature in the scientific world to describe why, when you would magnetize something uniformly, that it doesn't result in a uniform field. It's just really something new that I'd never heard of. The only other thing that I could even describe to people to have them look into is something called Correlated Magnetics Research, CMR, and they're polymagnets. They have a different form of magnetization, but they're still using high capacitive discharge. It's just a different way that they're doing it. They're actually like imprinting dots or pinpricks of poles onto a magnet. So
Yep.
they have a magnet that's already magnetized, and then they magnetize it further with patterns. Like you can make different geometries on it. You can do different patterns, which they can lock together, or you can have them attract, but at the last second they repel, or they repel, that you push them together and they retract anyway. Like different combinations of different fields can do different things. So what does this have to do with John Searle? Not much really, but what I like to equate this to, and at least compare it to, is that there indeed is different forms of magnetization that was
Mm-hmm.
denied in the past that is indeed true, that results in different behavior. So this company is still using a high capacitive discharge. It's only DC, but look at what they're doing. they're making these really unique patterns that are, these magnets do not behave the same. And to my knowledge, I've never seen any experiments with their magnets in an electrical generator or spinning in front of a coil or an oscilloscope or anything. I don't know how they would perform. On this PDF, for the people who can see this here, there is this flower-like arrangement on there with these dots of poles. Now you can, it's as if there are many magnets where that one magnet is. So normally if you want to have all those poles, you'd have to have individual magnets, which means you have to have all of the mass of those magnets. But in this, you can actually have one magnet equal the strength of 6 because you're imprinting it with these poles in a different way. So it's like you can make it stronger, you could make it behave differently. So why wouldn't it be able to do what John Surl claims then? And what does John Surl claim?
Yeah, that research is fascinating. Has anyone figured out how they're actually doing the correlated magnets? Are what exactly their process is to magnetize them? Has anyone have they released that?
No, that's very proprietary to their company. But Russ Grease with RWG Research, rwgresearch.com. He is doing a lot of magnetizing experiments recently, and he's working on how they're doing that to at least duplicate it. So, I'll try to open source something, because
Russ is genius, man. And if you watch his videos, his videos are amazing. Like especially that recent one where he thought he did it. He thought he made a unipole, a monopole. I mean, and found out that he magnetized it completely the opposite direction. He's really got some really good research coming out daily.
Literally, he does the scientific way. He tests things and then he shows it on the camera. He's a really good person too. He's a wonderful human being.
Yeah, he's one of our really good friends. Russ is definitely someone that if he's not on your radar, I would definitely get into for sure.
Oh man, yeah, he's awesome. Well, one thing about this generator that's completely different. Normally, when you put energy through a wire or around a wire or whatever you want to call it, the more energy you use equals the more heat. So when you're drawing more energy through something like a wire, it gets really hot. What is heat? Well, John Surl says heat is the incoherence of fermions or electrons. It's when they're at random and they're bumping around, they're all willy-nilly and chaotic. So what this does is it guides them into being in phase, all equally distant, the same everything, so that they are there's no discrepancies, there's no turbulence. Now, the more energy that pumps through, the colder it gets. So the more energy you draw, the more load that you're trying to pull, the colder the device gets. And he says that with the loads, it speeds up. Well, what happens to a motor? If you let more gas into a motor, it speeds up. If you have like a Tesla electric car, what happens to the motor if you floor it? It speeds up. So what happens if you draw electricity from this thing? It speeds up. But as it speeds up, it's producing this other wave also. So there's like a synergistic effect that's taken place that forms this cycle of energy. It's not like 0 point. It's not anything magical. It's just very different. And apparently it's extremely efficient. More so than anything anybody's ever seen. When you use a normal generator, it heats up, and when things heat up, it promotes radiation, bacteria thrive in heat and radiation. You get pollution, all that nasty stuff. The SEG, from what I understand, and what John has described is like the complete opposite, and it would restore what the normal machines do now. So instead of spreading radiation, it can reverse it. It can get rid of it. Instead of spreading bacteria, it can get rid of it, just like an ionizer, a negative ionizer. It's like uh, just extremely beneficial. The side effects just from using the device to draw energy from it, it's doing all this other things. Uh,
Yeah. Which makes complete sense to me in the way. I'm fascinated, and I think that the implications of what the processes that the SEG, the dynamics, and how it actually is working can teach us so much about the nature of um, what magnetism really is, and if we can understand what magnetism really is, we can also understand everything, really, basically. I mean, the nature of light, the nature of gravity, the nature of, sound waves, everything is kind of contained in this design, and that's the trick for me is trying to understand how it's like what is it pulling energy out of is I mean we all use these terms ether and chi prana we're all describing the exact same thing what is the process um, we're ordering these sort of whatever you want to call it this energy into just a different fashion and it's fascinating to me.
Now, what I think is going on, it's like imprinting. It's like the magnet remembers the information, just like a Polaroid would remember the image that is flash burned into it. Uh,
Uh-huh.
it's like a program, like a record has grooves in it, or a music box has like a code on it, and
Uh-huh.
it means nothing until you spin it. Once you spin it, then the information unravels and can be interpreted or can be useful or do something or actually interact with the rest of the system in resonance or do something. This is why we really require somebody top of the line to, once we get some funding, to hire them to do this, like map out the electric fields and the magnetic fields uh, and what the heck is happening here, because there's so much going on. You cannot visualize it, and like trying to name off all of the uh, the things going on with it. It just seems like name dropping and stuff. It's like it's too
Yeah.
fantastic. Uh,
Jason, have you ever uh, do you have a ferrocell by any chance, or have you ever?
like
I'm sure you've seen.
ferrofluids.
Well, um, oh man, what is the guy's name on YouTube? He's got that ferrocell. I think it's you remember Josh Toms first showed it to me, but
It's called Mind Warp on
yeah,
YouTube,
mine more.
and
He's got a ferrocell, and there's
it's a
another guy.
ferrofluid, and it's what it is it's like a couple few microns thick of ferrofluid sandwiched in
Mhm.
between some films, and then he
Yep.
has different color LED lights shining on it at different angles, three of them, like
Exactly.
red, green, and blue, and then
Yep.
the red the different color lights will show off the magnetic field lines, really, and you get this flower of life pattern, and you can actually see that there are two. There's a double toroid of energy. There's not just one donut around it. There's one on top of the North Pole and one on the bottom of the South Pole. And the
Exactly.
same thing is going on with the totality of this SEG. Is that there is like a donut of energy on the top and donut of energy at the bottom, almost like if you have a slinky, two
Uh-huh.
slinkies wrap it in a circle. Now you have a donut slinky. Now you have two donut slinkies. Put one on top of the other. Uh, there you go. That's a pretty good
I
quick
would
model.
I would be really interested to see the correlated magnets from correlated magnets research. I'd like to see that what it looks like because we can put it on the two-dimensional magnet paper, the magnet viewing film. But I mean, I would just love to see in 3 dimensions what just an individual
Searl
roller.
magnets. Yeah, I asked him that. Well, in order to be able to show that, we need the funding to rebuild the magnetizer so that you can actually magnetize the parts, and then you can test the parts. So that's kind of
Yeah,
frustrating. People are just
yeah,
build it. Well, you can't unless you have the funding. But if you did and you were to magnetize the roller, I asked John what the heck would it look like. He said if you look at it from the top, it would look like a bunch of hairs going down a drain, like the back of your head.
uh-huh,
You'd see a swirl of lines going down in a swirl, and that's kind of very different than other magnets. Now, what's different than his magnets?
yeah,
On every other magnet, like on the North Pole, you have a field that's always there. On the South Pole, you have a field that's always there. But on his magnets, there's like an interference pattern where there's points of north and points of nothing. And on the bottom, there's points of south and points of nothing. So on correlated magnetics materials, it's like on the north side, they can have points of north or points of south, but it's still all north with points of north or points of south on that side. Or the other side, it's all south with points of north. It's like on every other magnet, the field is always there. But on Searl's magnet, it's like an interference pattern, like a you know like you have the black white black white black white on off on off on off. Then you have this sort of wave of it's almost like a helical gear. You have these spokes and a helix around the thing, and every up spoke is a pole, and every down spoke is an absence of a pole, not just
yeah.
the opposite. It's a zero. So you have like 1 0 1 0 1 0.
See if you can show us the GIF real quick. I don't know if you have it handy, but you the
Yes,
actual.
I can do the whole screen here. Hold on here. Yeah. Sorry for the time it takes to get the material up. Man, I wish I had a Cray 7 supercomputer. Then it might keep up with me.
Right?
Help me. All right. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to get these animated GIFs so that you can see what I'm talking about in motion a little bit. I'm kind of just talking willy-nilly because I'm going through this this PDF. Like, if I had some questions or something, I'd be more structured. But I guess we're just talking, just trying to let people
We're
know the
doing fine. Don't
information
worry.
exists, and then give people the links.
Yeah.
To people just a little, I guess it's just practice for later.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm going on to my
So
photo bucket here. Oh, what?
I was going to ask you in your own words what you think. How the magnet is ordering. Is it the magnet itself creating
It's the
the order?
it's the alternating on off and alternating poles simultaneously, and then it has to do with what they call the quantum Hall effect. And there's like rapid fluctuations of magnetic pulses, which then make other interferences, and it gets really complex.
Yeah.
That's why we need to, and I'm not the best at explaining that part yet. I can explain the Meissner effect. Can't pronounce it as well as I can explain it. But yeah. So I'm getting there. This is a learning process for me too. But what I'm trying to do is just be able to relay to people what I've collected, and give
Yeah.
people an idea of what the technology is about, and give some sort of scientific context, not just talk about, okay, he flew a disk in the past, or it puts out negative ions or something. I'm trying to give people more context of what it's doing and why would it be doing that. What is the
Right.
claim and what is the science behind it? Okay, where can you show me a paper that has to do with something like that? Show me something
Yeah,
tangible.
yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do, is I put together a lot of this information so people can see
Oh, I think it's brilliant. Truly brilliant.
the context.
Looks like we lost Jason here for a second. See if I can get him back here. Good old Google Hangouts, right? Okay, looks like from one thing that I'm really interested in until Jason comes back. Well, one thing I'm really interested in, I'm also trying as hard as I can to relate the papers that I write, Walter Russell's work, um, Ed Lean Skolnin's work, Tesla, um, and try to figure out what's really going on in the SEG process. Um, that's why I'm interested to see what Jason comes up with when he's explaining the SEG, because the SEG uh, is really outside the box as far as the way that it works, how it works, the way that Surl and Jason and Fernando, all the guys that work on it, their understanding of of energy itself is so different. And I think that's why our mainstream scientists, our mainstream physicists are so far off and never will produce any tangible uh, energy devices. These alternative energy devices are suppressed for a reason. I think most people know that. Um, there's too much. There's so many political implications. There's too many implications for power, money, all these different things are kind of stopping you know the funding of the SEG. But anyways, I think that understand. Oh, here he
Yeah,
is. Here's
yeah,
Jason. He's back.
yeah. He finally decides to show up. Look who decided to show up.
Sorry, man. I was just rambling on about the implications
Yeah.
of the SEG, and why it's suppressed so much while you were gone.
It's trying to buy time till I fumble around to come back. Eh, I get you. It's all right. All right, hold on here. So apparently it was either have the animated GIFs or be able to be online. But now I think I
Huh.
got it. Now I think I got it at the same time here. So let's see if I can do the screen share again. Hold on here. I'm in mid fail, folks. In mid fail.
Yeah, this is a great learning experience trying to figure out Google Hangouts and how it works with. There you go.
What? Can you see me? You can see you. All right. There we go.
I can see.
So, uh, what did you want to see again?
Ah, yeah, yeah. Let's see the first one. People really probably enjoy each one of these.
Well, the
Maybe you
first,
just want to go
uh,
through them and talk
yeah,
about them
first.
a little.
Okay. Hopefully they'll load and not wreak havoc again. Alrighty, that's better. You can see that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's a beautiful image. Explain it.
So, yeah, so there is a cycle of energy with the SEG. There's no over unity. There's no creating energy from nothing. It's a cycle, just like a hydroelectric dam has a cycle. The center ring is the neodymium, the lanthanide. And for some reason, the lanthanides like to give off, using the mainstream model, they like to give off electrons. Uh, I cringe every time I say that, guys. But just for the sake of conversation, all right. Uh, try to stay true to what John Searle's explanation is, despite my opinions.
Well,
Uh,
one of these days we'll do a whole hangout just on your opinions off the record, separate from Searle, and because I think we're all kind of
my
in that
opinions,
as well.
whatever. Uh, so like the red arrows are showing the energy going to the core. Okay, so neodymium, when you draw a load from the device, the core becomes positively charged. Okay, so what happens to positive and negative charges? They attract. So what are electrons according to the mainstream model? They're like negative particles. So as you
Well,
draw a load, well, that's yeah, just according to the mainstream, uh, as you draw a load, the core becomes positively charged and attracts
mhm,
these electrons, and then the electrons blast through the concentric layers uh, in like a 2D plane. You know how like two bubbles come together and make a flat sheet? Not like Einstein's
okay,
flat universe. We're talking something
right.
plain. Uh, so these electrons get attracted to the core, and then they couple into a Cooper pair, and they like quantum
Okay.
tunnel through the layers of the device. Now, normally people are like, wait a minute, electrons can't go through insulators. The the second layer of that SEG is Teflon, which is a dielectric. It's an insulator. So how would electrons go through an insulator? Well, if they're single, they can't. They bounce off, but because it's like a reflector. But when they're coupled, two electrons coupled together is a Cooper pair, and it behaves like a photon. And as far as the Cooper pair is concerned, an insulator is like glass. It's like transparent. So uh,
Okay.
light goes through glass, and so do Cooper pairs through insulators. So and
Okay.
normally when they couldn't go through the insulator, they blast through it like with no resistance because they're like tunneling between the atoms making up the Teflon. They're tunneling between the atoms making up the insulator, uh,
Okay.
just like a photon would go through glass. And so then they're attracted to the magnetic layer, which then accelerates them outward and follows that red arrow through the device, and then emitted by the copper outward,
Okay.
just like outward at the equator. So everything is sucked in from the top and the bottom, energy-wise, and then blasts out radially like a ring at the equator. And uh, actually, this is the wrong animation because it should show. Let's do the next one over. Sorry. The red arrows should be coming out of the rollers, just like that here.
Aha.
The energy is emitted by the rollers. The energy goes as collected by the core. It goes through the concentric layers at the equator, and then is blasted out at the rollers. And then what happens to water after it passes through a hydroelectric dam? It goes back to the environment, back into the atmosphere, and then it evaporates. What
Yep.
happens to the coupled electrons after they tunnel through the device? Well, they meet the incoherent environment again, and then they split, and then uh, they get recharged in their journey back to the core because they migrate from feeling that influence of electrostatic charge. So it's like a complete circuit. They go to the core, they're coupled, They blast through, their kinetic energy is harnessed, they are depleted, and then they migrate back to the core and they recharge as they do so. So it's like the neodymium is the reservoir, uh, the Teflon is the dam wall, and even in the dam wall they have little holes that go through to allow the water through, and little channels that directs and turns the turbines. Well, the rollers going around the stator are the turbines. They're the rollers. They're the rotors. And so the energy, it's
Right.
just this animation is just to show that the energy is simply a cycle. It's not uh, creating anything from nothing. It's not over unity. There's just a proportional conversion. An equal in is an equal out. But the in is random chaos, and the out is organized uh, energy. It's a different type of electricity that behaves like light. And then it will like negatively charge the air. It's not emitting negative ions. Well, yeah, it is. It's emitting electrons. Uh, but it's also negatively charging the air around it, which then would cause a glow, like a halo effect.
Now, not to get too weird on you, but when I'm trying to visualize and try to understand what's really taking place here, um, me being crazy and all, trying to figure this stuff out in rational terms. I like to think of negative charge is a hard term for me to understand. I like to think like the same way that it would be hard for me to negatively charge my cell phone. And if I was trying to understand what's really going on with the SEG, it makes more sense to me personally that a proton is just discharge, an electron is charge. Of all, it's just the same, like you're talking about. It's a cycle of energy uh, going through different energetic processes of all of the same thing, and it's like ordering. Um, it's going through as Walter Russell would say, uh, the equilibrium, the balanced interchange, right?
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this. Again, I'm not particular to the mainstream model or the terminology either, but I'm just trying to
Yeah, I just wanted to throw
stay
that out
true to
there,
what. Yeah, right. Gotta gotta let
just
it
in
be
case
known.
if that helps anybody, maybe.
'Cause,
But anyways, yeah. So
yeah.
describe
So
this
you
one.
know, so what he describes it as, like, a positive charge is when you're lacking electrons, and a negative charge is when you have an excess of electrons. So this thing is drawing in random free electrons that are just waiting to couple to things that are just wasted. They're just
Uh-huh.
there. What is heat? What is temperature? It's wasted energy that could be used, but it's not. It's in a random state. So this thing organizes it and creates order out of randomness. Doesn't create energy out of nothing,
Right.
but what it does is uh, it directs the kinetic energy in one flow, in a coherent flow. And by doing that, it drops the temperature, because you can't have temperature in an ordered state. See where those arrows are just coming out the center of red? Everything's perfectly ordered. You can't have heat if everything is ordered. It's
Right.
Heat is the definition of like disorder on the so-called quantum scale. It's
Right.
just it's uh, chaos. And this thing prevents chaos, so therefore you're going to prevent heat, and then reap all that extra energy in one flow, in a constant flow.
Right. So there's a cycle to all energies go through have three different states. They have like the entropy and the neg entropy, or the gravity and the levity, right? And the um, like Schauberger always said. Um, it's all about comprehending and copying nature to me. So when I see the SEG, all I see is something that's utilizing the opposite side of the explosion, more of the implosion. Not the heat death cycle, more of the cool. It's just the opposite process. Am I right
Correct.
about that? I mean,
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely implosive. The rollers are definitely being impelled around the stator. Um, it's a different way of doing things. It's not a nuclear, not a radiative, uh, not a normal technology. It's not conventional. It's just a different way of doing things that is not readily understood. But it's not science fiction either. There's so much context and scientific literature to help understand, from the past 150 years of science. But John Searle is the guy who just happened to put this all together in one machine, and all these different laws can apply to this. It's insane.
yeah, yeah, and the fact that it's so much more efficient than any of the motors that we have built already. So obviously,
It's a motor and a generator in one, but
right.
it doesn't become active as a generator until these variations or waves are imprinted onto these uh, onto these rollers. There are 8 magnetic rings that, when stacked on top of each other, make these cylinders.
Uh-huh.
And these impressions, or these electric uh, programs, it's an electric programming into the magnet. And when it spins, it produces this wave that correlates precisely with the circumference of the device. And uh, the way that I understand it, this is the way I understand it in this next GIF right here. Um, these rollers are producing like this wave as they roll around. They're tracing a specific path.
Okay.
All of the rollers are tracing that same path over and over. It's called an epicycle. Just like a planet around a sun or whatever, it's an epicycle.
Okay.
They spin and orbit, and it's pretty much the same path, over the course of time, and it repeats and repeats and repeats. Um,
Like a gear.
exactly, just like a gear. So
Yeah.
they trace the path of a gear. All right, but
Mhm.
as they're as they're orbiting the stator, they're producing an electric current. All right, but that electric current
Okay.
goes 90 degrees to the magnetic field. Right, so
Uh-huh.
what happens is the gear that's being traced like starts to spin. So the rollers have to maintain tracing that same path,
Right.
but the path itself starts to rotate.
Okay.
The rollers are on the path. The rollers are still maintaining the same speed on the path,
Right.
but now the path itself is rotating.
Okay.
That's like not really heard of.
Yeah.
I don't really
It
know how to describe that other than that at this point. It's like the rollers are maintaining their path, but then this electric current is creating this wave and resonance that actually moves the path itself around the stator.
similar to like it makes sense to me if I think about it in terms of different pressure conditions. Like if you squeeze a ice cube at the end, it squirts out the other end, and you kind of get a little bit of motion. Or if you have a submarine and you squirt a little bit of air bubbles in the front of the submarine, then it gets propelled forward because it's less pressure, and it's kind of like a pressure condition. So maybe it's moving along. Um,
Well, it's not just
almost like
that.
it's
Imagine somebody like grabbing your shirt from the
uh-huh.
front and then pulling you forward, but
Okay.
at the same time somebody is uh, pushing you forward from the back. So you're being
Right.
grabbed. you're being grabbed by your collar and being pulled forward, but somebody's pushing you at your back at the same time. You're going to be
Okay.
launched so fast forward, it's ridiculous.
Right,
There's
right,
like
right, right.
there's not just no resistance, but you're being freaking pulled forward and pushed forward.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but what I think is like happening and being described here by John is the rollers are tracing a path around the ring,
Hmm.
but that like and it's the path itself is tracing a gear, but then the electric current being generated by the rollers going around actually spins the gear. So the more energy you draw, the faster the rollers go on their path. But the faster they go on their path, the faster the path itself spins.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
so, so
It's
like, what the hell is that about? That's like the best that I can describe it to date. I
yeah.
will probably have a better explanation later tonight, but for now, that's the best I got. As far as I understand it, this magnetic process imprints this information like sort of a variation, and then when it's in rotation around the ring, it's tracing a path, but then that wave uh, sort of correlates with with everything else, and it just starts to spin, carrying the rollers. But here's the thing: uh, there's John says there's no inertia with as the rollers go around the ring. I mean, how would that be? You see these things going faster, there has to be inertia. Well, a lot of people say that they see a UFO in the sky traveling thousands of miles an hour in a split second,
Yeah.
but the inertia on board would rip you apart. So obviously you're seeing it. You're watching this thing because I've seen something like that in
Yeah.
person. I've actually seen something like that. Like, couldn't freaking believe it. Something actually moved that fast. Went from like a standstill to like a movie.
Okay.
Like how would something move that fast? How? Somebody tell me how. Like it's frustrating and it's kind of like
that that
it's
Victor
mysterious and everything, but it's angering at the same time because I want to know how in the hell did that freaking thing move like that,
I
Gandalf?
think I think we all
How?
doesn't that Victor Grebennikov movie little video kind of screw with you because it makes me
Well,
wonder
I don't
because
know. Like, yeah,
the way they
that's all. Like,
describe it, it's like gravity bends. Like it's almost like you're not. It moves things around it so that it has no friction, and it just kind of is
like
frictionless.
the this I don't know. It's just so frustrating because I've seen something. I've seen it in person. I know it's possible. So like, it's not all for nothing for me because I've seen an example of what this technology like and other technologies like it, really advanced stuff, can achieve. Seen it, cannot tell me otherwise. Seen it with other people, wasn't just
Give me your
me.
best guess. Give me your best guess for because I'm sure you have some theories, whether or not they're complete or not. I'm sure you have a couple of ideas. So what do you think? What do you think is happening?
Well, I think what I think happens is at least with John Searl's stuff, I use this as an example, I guess. And again, I haven't freaking seen this yet because I want to, at least with John Searl, I want to see John Searl's stuff, do this with my own eyes. But to do that requires, like $3 million and a year and a half to 2 years full-time work to make the magnetizer, to make the magnets, to make them spin.
Right.
So in the meantime, we can talk about what John says and other examples that I've seen, weird stuff. But like, uh, what I think happens is this magnetic imprint is rolling around the stator,
Uh-huh.
and it is tracing a path. The electric current that being produced actually turns the path. The path, when it's turned, uh, okay, like, damn, how do I describe this? Like, okay, imagine you have a pen and a pad on your lap, and you're sitting in a chair or on a bar stool. You're writing on the piece of paper. Now someone starts spinning you on the bar stool as you're writing on the paper. Does you spinning on the bar stool really affect how you're drawing on the paper? No. You're still drawing at the same rate. You're still, it's like
Uh-huh.
there's no inertia between your spinning bar stool and your pen on the paper. There's no, because you're spinning relative to the bar stool, you know?
Well,
So
if
imagine,
gravity has anything to do with magnetization, then that would probably describe that a little bit easier. If there
well,
was
it's the you're
direct,
not there's it's the thing is there's absolute motion and then there's relative motion. A spinning disk
yeah,
is subject to absolute motion. And a guy named Dr. Eugene Podklednov, a Russian scientist with rotating superconductors, really he goes into this. Uh, uh, Damn, I wish I had a faster computer that I could just bring this stuff up on the Google. Jesus, I'm on screen share still, huh? You're just looking at the same stuff, man.
yeah. But it's not a problem because it's these animations are beautiful. So
Yeah, but they get old after a second, man. They gotta remind me, click, man, click. Looking at the same slide and stuff over there, it's weak. Come on, get it together, man. So
sorry,
like,
it's my fault. I'm supposed to be hosting this, but I'm enthralled with what you're saying.
so like, uh, so okay, imagine like you're walking down a. Okay, how can I describe this? Uh, Geez, this is kind of difficult. You're on a treadmill or something, right?
Uh-huh.
And now the treadmill is on a truck being driven somewhere,
Okay.
but you're not going to feel the difference in inertia between that and you're still maintaining your same walking speed on the thing, but now your path is actually moving. So
Right.
now it says you're going, 5 miles an hour on your treadmill, but the truck is taking you 30 miles an hour.
Right, like a maglev train, how they
You're
come
not feeling
at
it,
miles
but
an hour,
you're
but you don't feel it.
yeah, so I'm trying to give an analogy or something here. I'll come up with one better, but like these rollers, they're going around on their path,
Uh-huh.
but then these magnetic fields are around it and then carry it along like a wave, like a river, and there's no inertia between that. But so even though it's speeding up and accelerating, there's no, they're not experiencing the g forces like they normally would because the path itself is spinning, but the path itself is a magnetic flux. So you're spinning the damn gear. You're spinning. It's something different. I've never heard of anything like this in any scientific literature or anything.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Like, and I just damn. I don't know. I just want to try to relay these ideas to try to get people to understand how different of a process um, this magnetization is and what it can what it can achieve.
Right.
Because each one of those little rollers, each one of those segments, there's 8 segments to a roller, and there's 12 rollers going around this ring that you can see here, if you can see it.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Now the energy is going through the core and then coming out in the center of the roller.
Uh-huh.
Each segment, each of those 8 segments of the roller has its own imprint on it. So there's like multiple fluctuations going on per roller. There's a lot of people are like, well, okay, why don't you just build one SEG and then you can get the funding to get like a facility to make more?
Doesn't work like that.
Yeah, because well, normally it doesn't work like that. You have a device, you go to manufacturing, you could just crank them out.
Yeah.
Not with this. There's 2,124 parts to this device, and all of them have to be exact. Like the
So let me
tolerances
ask.
on these things are ridiculous.
So the 12 is obviously very significant for a lot of different reasons. What happens if you change either the number of rollers or the number of segments in the rollers? Is there bigger and smaller arrays that work? Are there certain harmonics that you have to play with? Are
Well,
these all?
from what I understand, it'll work with one roller, but I think it has to have the eight segments in it. Um, he describes it as like the top and bottom segments actually spin slower. So like if you were to label them from the top down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, numbers 1 and 8 are spinning at the same speed. Numbers 2 and 7 are spinning a little faster. Numbers 3 and 6 are, is that right? Yeah, 3 and 6 are spinning even faster. And then 4 and 5 are like spinning real fast. The middle one. So, and then he describes it. He says, if you were to stand on a bridge and you look at a river, look at the water going down the river. What happens? Along the banks, the water is going slower, and then progressively, as you get towards the center, it's going faster and faster and faster.
Mm-hmm.
Just like with the current of energy in the rollers.
Awesome.
So they're spinning at different rates, and there's different like levels of energy as they get to the equator, because it's all emitted at the equator.
I love your analogies and your metaphors. It helps paint the picture a lot better for me, especially the water and the dynamics of the. It's all coming together for me.
Right on. I'm aiming for Michelangelo. I'm looking more like Monet or Picasso right now, but
no, it's working.
We're getting there.
I don't know about the other people out there, but I'm starting to really have some epiphanies here, starting to understand it way more than I ever have. So.
Yeah, me too, and it's only because I've had ongoing conversations with this guy. Like it's Professor John Surl is just seriously brilliant. He's so incredibly lucid. One thing he's working on right now is I'm not kidding you. It's a 1,000-page book describing how he was able to make the SEG in the past.
Oh wow.
Who, not exactly like the magnetization process precisely, but like how he was able to do it, what manufacturers, what materials, like what processes, what types of machines and that kind of stuff, like to show like Jesus how difficult this was, and also like the history of it, what he's been through, naming names and showing pics of faces of people who have helped hinder him along the way.
Yeah. Which is
really
important.
Screwed him over. Like there's some people who have really screwed him over.
Yeah, if anybody's new to this to the SEG, we really highly recommend you check out the John Surl story. You can get the DVD, and it's a whole really well-made documentary that kind of goes over a lot of the background and the story there.
It is well made, but if you purchase the DVD, just know that none of the proceeds are actually going to go towards the making of the SEG, nor will they actually get to John Surl. But it will educate people intensely. I bought 10 DVDs and gave them out when they first came out, and I can't at the moment, but if I could, I'd buy 10 more and give them to another 10 people. I'd recommend that people do it anyway, because it's just so like eye-opening. It just gives you some reference for what he went through and just some basic history on his life, and it's just a really good documentary.
It's a good introduction to the whole story.
Yeah, and but there's so much more. That's like it's like 108 minutes or something like that, and geez, it just gets into like not even the tip of the iceberg. It's just to let you know this actually exists. And here's 100 books more. Here's so much material.
1,000 pages. I mean, I think I'm going to wait for you to give me the cliff notes for that one.
No, he's going to release it all for as an ebook publicly for free in like 3 different volumes or something. And I've seen this thing grow from like 300 pages, and then I saw 500 pages, and I saw it at 800 pages. This was like 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
So it's not kidding when he says 1,000 pages. Like, oh, John, what the hell? You're at 850 pages now. What the? Like he doesn't play around. Like he's for real.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really love about Searl. I mean, there's so many things there's to love about the guy, but he's very transparent. He's ready to just give it all away, so that he really wants to see his inventions come to fruition to help the world,
Exactly.
help the planet, help people.
And in a way that no body will own it, and in a way that nobody can shelve it, or it's for the people, and he's said that for years. Power to the people. And he genuinely wants this and will get this to the world.
Yeah.
And it's a slow process, and the more help, the easier and faster it gets. It's gonna happen anyway, so might as well help it along, make it go faster, because it's gonna
Yeah,
happen anyway.
we'd like to see it happen in our lifetime, you know.
I want to see it in John's lifetime.
Yeah. Yes, I do too.
Like,
I back it 100%. Any way I can help, any way that I just ask people to share all the time, spread it out. Eventually, people are gonna have to um, explore the work more. It's just right in their face.
man, I should have put this slide up in the beginning.
Oh, the hydrodynamic process.
Yeah, hydroelectric dam, just to show people an analogy to what's going on, just to show it's a cycle of energy. It's already existing energy being funneled through, and there we go. That's better. Leave that one up for a second.
Nice.
Now, regarding the gravity stuff, it's always fun to talk about. It's kind of premature to talk about right now because we're really Searl Magnetics. We're focused on the 15 kilowatt generator for the purpose of powering homes and cars and industry and people. The gravitational anomalies will come later, but that requires millions and millions of dollars of funding. Just like NASA gets billions for the space program, this would require equal funding. Like, come on, you're talking about a solid rings. In order to make a ship, hey, let's go space travel. In order to make a ship, you have to be in the center of the rings. The smallest model produces 15 kilowatts, and the center of that ring is like 8 inches. You have to have that center ring be big enough to fit onboard electronics to regulate the electric current, to have seats, beds, accommodations and stuff. You're talking huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Something like that, you're spending billions of dollars. Billions of dollars.
Yeah.
John Surl wanted to do a manned craft that could fit like 3 people or something. That would cost 25 million pounds, British pounds, back in like 1968. So if you want to have one hold like 2,000 people, or you want to have something, you're talking solid copper ring, like as big as a football field. Like, you obviously can't have a magnet ring that big. You have to do it. You have to do it in sections.
Right.
At which point you have to magnetize each section differently to connect those waves. Like, imagine this. Imagine you have a record, but you break it up in slices of a pie. and then you record the song individually on each section. You scratch it in. So then when you connect each slice of the pie, it connects perfectly. You don't hear any glitches. You don't hear any distortions. How much more difficult would that be than to just record something on a solid record? It sounds just difficult, right?
Yeah.
So imagine going through a magnetization process to have to match up frequencies and variations so that they match up perfectly with no glitches, no nothing.
Mhm.
So that it matches perfectly. And if you're trying to do something that can fit actual people in it, come on, you're talking billions of dollars. So it's fun to talk about, yay.
Yeah.
But yeah, realistically, it's billions to produce.
It might be
So, but
different in a world where we were a little bit more conscious of our resources and our energy. But at our current state, you got to take one step at a time. Take
um,
the
but I did ask John some questions like, well, okay, well, if you were on board, how many oxygen tanks would you need to bring? And he's like, oxygen, you don't need to bring oxygen tanks because there's an excess of electrons and it's completely purifying the air every second. You don't need to carry oxygen tanks
aha.
because what you're doing is you have an open system here. In an open system, you can exchange heat, energy, and mass. All known energy generators are closed systems that
Uh-huh.
exchange heat and energy, but they don't exchange mass. You have gasoline in a tank. When that depletes, that's it.
Uh-huh.
You have a closed tank. You don't have more gasoline coming in as it's being used.
Right.
But in an open system, you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can have a recycling of energy, a recycling of breath, a recycling of, uh, of great things,
Yeah.
this life-sustaining stuff.
Recycling. Yeah.
So
That
that really
was.
that really caught me. I was like, wait a minute, you wouldn't need any. So, no, no, no
That.
oxygen tanks. I'm like, ha, cool,
It's
okay.
actually good physics. It actually works. If you.
And he also said if you're on board, there's 1/2 gravity. So there's like if you weigh 200 pounds here, if you're on board, you'd weigh 100 pounds. And he
Huh.
said, there's also less weight on your thoughts. So it's easier
Ah.
to think. You're just happier. You're uh, just twice at ease. And
Yep.
then I was like, well, wait a minute. If you have 1/2 gravity, and mainstream science says that gravity is like associated with time, and like and all this stuff, and Einstein's twin paradox theory and all this nonsense and stuff. I'm like, well, what would happen if you had a twin on board of your craft, and you had another twin just on land, and he went out for 30 years or something and then came back or something, or if he was just on board for 30 years and then just got off board. It's
Right.
like, well, so one of them will age 30 years, one of them will age 15.
Huh.
I said, you just screwed me up. He's like, I don't know how to even think about that. Um,
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, no,
uh,
that's really cool. And actually, I've been learning about a lot of that stuff, and thinking I've been thinking a lot about that type of stuff.
I just don't
They
get it.
actually it makes sense though. It can work. It can work in
I don't
my
know, man. Like, but how's this? Like, okay, let's say twin is on board and the twin is on the ground.
yeah.
Both of them. Okay, you start saying this mantra at the same speed. Like, wouldn't they say the same number of mantras after the same amount of time? How would there? Uh, hmm.
Yeah, see that begs the question, what exactly is time? And that's probably a whole nother, that's a whole rabbit hole to dive down in by itself. But it's like, the scalar nature of time. Like I think we've talked about this once or twice a few years ago, where the crickets, if you slow down the crickets, uh, it sounds like an orchestra singing.
Well, actually, that was a. I know which one, the cricket one you're talking about. That was actually doctored. That was altered a little bit to make it sound like music. That wasn't just
Oh,
slowed down. Yeah,
oh, okay,
I was
okay.
disappointed too. Yeah.
But it's I like the idea that perception is, and of time is different than what we call cycles of time, depending on what scale of existence you're at. Oh yeah, there's the perfect picture right there to describe what we were talking about earlier with the ferrocell and
Yeah.
picture. I
Well,
would really like to see a Searl magnet, just at least just one of the magnets inside of a ferrocell and see what it looks like, because that's a completely different pattern of a magnet. Same thing with the correlated magnets research. It'd be really interesting to see what it looks like.
I said, well, if you bring a normal magnet to a regular magnet, what would happen? I said, they'd stick together. I said, well, nothing special? No. Oh, okay. Well, well, what if you, uh, what did I ask? Because like, oh, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference though if you had like if you had just a regular metal ring, if you had a magnet and then you had a Searl magnet next to each other, if you're just looking at them, you wouldn't be able to tell what's difference.
Huh.
From what I understand, and he says you're not able to back engineer his magnets either.
Huh.
Like you could have the magnet in your hand in your lab, and it just he smiles, good luck, ha. Like you can't think because like you can determine the amount of Gauss, the strength of a magnetic field it has. You can
Yeah.
determine what the magnet's made out of, its
Right.
density, its shape, its weight, and all that stuff, and and you can determine its magnetic field orientation.
Right.
The north is here, south is here, but you can't tell what frequencies were used to magnetize it, at what timings, for how long. There's no way. You can't. There's no way.
Yep.
Not well. Maybe humanity might figure that out in 1,000 years or something. But you from what John Searle says, you cannot back engineer his magnets. Uh, there was he says he was running his home off of his SEG for 31 years until Midland's electric board broke into his home and then ripped it out of his wall where it was plastered in. And then they took it apart trying to figure out what the hell it was, and uh, it, when they took him to court or something, and the judge said, "Well, where is this? You said you confiscated this thing. Where is it?" They said, "Oh, we lost it." Great. And they said, "Well, do you know how it works?" I said, "No, it was just a bunch of magnets. We don't know how it works. I mean, we have no clue." So then the judge said, "Well, you're going to try to charge him for money for something that he was using for himself and you have no clue about? Case dismissed."
Yeah. Get out of
But,
here.
but then where was the device? Oh, we lost it. Yeah, right.
Lost it.
He had another device that he gave to a dying friend who had cancer,
Hmm.
and he wanted to see if it would help, prolong his life. And
Right.
from what he understood, it did. They gave him like a not long to live, and he lived for another 10 years or something.
Yeah.
But after he died, um, like nobody was there to inherit his stuff, so his stuff was trashed, just literally thrown in a dumpster, and then
Uh-huh.
with the unit. So he said it's probably in a garbage bin.
God.
It's gone. Yeah, like stories like that. Like what the?
Doesn't
It's
it
like
just make you mad?
there was actually he. I think it was a few decades ago, like 20 years ago or something. He went to the landfill um, back to where he originally lived, and he actually did recover like a couple broken magnets from his original uh, tests and experiments and stuff.
Yeah.
But he gave up looking after like 3 days of just looking through trash.
Wow.
From years
Yeah.
ago. It's like, yeah, right.
Right, right, right.
He actually managed to find some stuff that was his, not just, broken magnets. It was his old stuff. But
So, I don't know how much more you want to talk about
well, we
SEG.
could,
We
yeah, we
have
could
some
go
questions.
for hours, man. Yeah, questions would be much better.
It looks like one person asked, "Does the periodic element do the periodic elements relate to the law of squares?"
Um, I don't really know off the top of my head. They're the way John Searl describes it to me. Hold on a sec. Is let's see here. Let me get this. So like, I've asked him this so many times. Like, how do you know what elements correlate with what numbers in the squares? Like, how did you know to use neodymium? How did you know to use copper? He's explained this to me over and over. I'm lost after sentence 2. He's like, oh, well, it's simple. You see, the number that's up in the top corner has to be the largest number, and of course you want the largest number for the mass of electrons. And then you just take its mirror image, which is the other corner, and you know that's going to be the next layer, which is the dielectric to hold it like a dam. Okay, and then you go to the back to the next mirror, which is the next in the diagonal line, and this one you know is going to be the magnetic, which is the accelerator, because this line has to do with this one. And the, huh? What? Did you understand anything I just said? No. Nobody listening did. What?
Mhm.
What? Completely lost. Like,
It sounds like
only he understands it. Like,
he has a better understanding of what the electrons really are, like the atomic numbers would actually with the real process.
it's, I don't know. All I know is because the numbers like the element 60, neodymium element 60, there's no number 60 in the square set that he uses. It's a 4 by 4 square, 1 through 16, and then put in random like a Sudoku, but in a specific randomness. And the numbers are 4, 7, 10, 13 that you want to pay attention to. It always says pay attention to the diagonal. It always steps in 3, 4, 7, 10, 13. And how does he know? How do they correlate with the periodic table? I don't know. I asked him what is the law of squares to him, and he said it's like a calculator, and the law of squares just gives you a route, an avenue to find the fastest solution to what you're looking for, whether it be architecture, building something. If you want to find your quickest way to A and B, if you're like in the middle of a city, you want to like you can plug in street names or you plug in different information into the square matrix,
Yeah,
and then you add it up a certain way and it will give you a solution. It's like a way of doing math and calculating things. I'm sure that you can use it for the table of elements, but how it that's like, how do you say, how does a calculator correlate with the table of elements? Well, it
right.
depends on how you're using the calculator and what you're trying to achieve with it.
Well, it sounds to me like it's using the ratios within nature, the way nature's algorithm, and it's kind of giving you a shortcut to the geometries inherent in the matrix, right?
It's like to him it's apparent. Like, I just saw this video the other day. It was called Sonic Geometry on
Yeah, that's one
YouTube.
of my favorites. I love that. That's a great, great, great. I
Yeah,
recommend it
that's
to anybody. It's like a
I've
half
been
hour.
you kept me out of the loop, bruh.
I shared that like 2 years ago, all over the place. I don't know
Like,
how
oh,
you missed
I just saw that. Like, okay, so it's stuff like this. Like, it just so happens that there's 180 degrees in a triangle.
it. Yep,
100, if you take 180 and make that a sound, 180 hertz, it
yep,
correlates to a perfect harmonic to an F note. Okay,
exactly.
let's take a circle. A circle is 360.
Hmm.
That's double 180. Every
And the
time you
square circle
every
and the
time
square.
yeah, every time you double a number, you get an octave higher, which is a
Yep,
perfect F note again. You
yep.
take a pentagon, 540 degrees. 540 hertz is a perfect note. Again, it's like these shapes, they just work out. And if you know, like, okay, the law of squares, uh, 4, 7, 10, 13, you like, they equal 34. They equal, what does that mean? It's like you're dealing with calculating the materials, what you need, their size, their weight, and then you use those numbers as the blueprints or the formula for the machine. So
Exactly.
like, uh, it's like if people want blueprints, it's not a normal device. You can't have blueprints like that. You like, sorry, sorry, it just doesn't work like that. You want it to. People complain and like get angry and stuff that they want it to work. It just doesn't work that way. Sorry. You
Yeah.
have to learn this way. There is a different way.
Yeah.
Yes, the different way does exist. People
Yeah.
used it thousands of years ago. Now you got to look at it. This man has dreams about it and apparently has it in his DNA. Something triggered it out. Whatever it is, the man knows.
Well,
Okay, he has some connection.
it's like you were talking about in the beginning. It's got a lot to do with the fact that he didn't have a program that
Oh,
was pushing against the natural learning of things, the same as Schauberger, and Wright, and Russell, and Tesla. All these people, just kind of had their own understanding based on the evolution of learning, like comprehending and copying nature. So I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that he was self-taught, you know.
it's exactly the reason why. And what I want to try to get to here is to show some of the basics on the law of squares. But I should have been doing this. So this is a whole learning process. The next time I have a hangout, I'm going to be better prepared, so I can
Yep.
click through. So
Well, we could make this kind of like a weekly thing if you want. We could go through a whole and do it right.
is uh, yeah, is the whole image showing up on your screen, or just part of it? Can you see the writing right now?
I could read it. I don't know if people will be able to, but
All
it'll
right,
be
because
a great
it looks
reference
like it.
because
All right,
all the links we're going to put in all these links that we've been talking about. We're going to put them in the description.
all right. Um, hold on, I just want to.
But yeah, I could definitely read it. I mean,
All right, hold on
it's
here. I'm going to get into the law of squares. I just want to show people. Here it is. Okay. So
perfect.
here's a picture of 25 of his Law of Squares books that I put on the table just
Uh-huh.
because I couldn't fit anymore on the table.
Right.
There's another like
These are
50.
yours? You
No,
have these?
these are John Searl's at the facility,
Oh, okay.
and so I just put them all on the table. I'm flipping through them. I'm trying to read, trying to just get an understanding of his perspectives and his models and all of his work. There's like he's written over 100. Okay, it's ridiculous. When he says he's writing 1,000 pages, the man is writing 1,000 pages. When he says he's written about 100 books, it's literal. He's written about 100 books. Like he's insane. Since it's nuts. Who does that? Come on. Who writes 100 books? Come on. So look at this here. When John Surl was working for the electric company as a 14-year-old, he saw a piece of paper with this little 2 and a big 2 next to it, like, 2 squared. He asked the foreman and said, "What the heck does this mean, 2 squared?" The guy said, 2 squares, 2 on 2, 2 squares on 2 squares, literally drew it out. Okay. He said, John asked, "Well, what's the value? What do they represent?" The guy said, "What do you mean, what do they represent? They're just squares. They don't represent anything. It's just a formula, 2 squared." John went home that night and he said, "Wait a minute, something's wrong. How do you just have squares and nothing in them? Like if you have a box, you either have something in it, you have air in it, you have something is occupying the space of the box. You can't just have nothing, right? There's like a vacuum in there. There's air. There's water. What is the value? What's in there? What is? So the guy didn't have an answer. He just said, "No, it's just a formula." So John Searle says, "No, it's not just a formula. It actually represents something in reality." So what four squares of what? And so he started thinking more and more and more, and started making this, giving logic, reality logic to these numbers, like 2 squared, 4 squared, and making an actual grid out of them, and then filling them with a value, filling them with numbers, and then calculating it. Okay, well, what does this add up to? What does this row add up to? What does this diagonal add up to? What's the value between this square and this square? What's the value of this square and this square? What's the difference? Show me relationships to something real. What does it represent? So he found if you put all the numbers in normally, you add them up, it all equals different numbers. So he's like looking at it like, well, like you gotta read the rest of this because it's kind of complex right now. It's another like 9-hour talk. Sorry. So he found that like you start putting these numbers in, you add them up, they all equal different numbers. So how does he rearrange them so that they all equal the same number? And unlike Sudoku, he does not use the same number twice. You can't have the same object, or can't have two different objects occupying the same space. You can't have the same object occupying two space. Simple relativity rules. He's using. So just like one number for each box. Pretty simple. So I saw a pattern that he was using here with these squares. Hey, you notice like the placement of it. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So what if you, instead of using 1 through 8, or excuse me, 1 through 9, you used 2 through 10, but in the same placement. So you have the numbers in the same order. They'll still add up to be the same. So what if you use 3 through 11? What if you use 4 through 12? What if any numbers that you put in these squares, following this pattern, will always equal the same sum, no matter what. And so he developed this type of math up to 100 by 100 squares. Wow. 10,000 squares that all add up, like in order, no matter which way. It's great. The last time I saw him, he was just working on a 21 by 21 square, and trying to explain to me how how this inner layer of 4, 1, 10, 7, 16, and then the outer next ring, and then the outer ring, and then the outer, how they all step up in phases of 8, just like how an electron has to go through an atom in like groups of 8. And he was like trying to explain to me how the different structure of the squares correlates to the shells of an atomic structure, and how the numbers go through precisely the same way. I'm like,
wow. I wonder if it relates to the cubic wave field and the inert gas rings, the processes.
That's what I want to know. I want to talk to Robert Otey and try to translate some of John Searle's interpretations into Brusalian terminology.
Yeah.
So all I've got here next is just to show, like,
Does it work in 3 dimensions? Like if you...
well, yes, but only one face of the cube works to build what you need. So yes, it is a cube, but only one face of the cube serves for your goal. So that's why he calls it the law of squares, not the law of cubes, because you're still dealing with one face of a cube.
Yeah. I wonder if it relates to projective geometry and the whole Rudolf Steiner.
There's a law of hexagons too.
Yeah.
And actually, I asked John. I said, John, there's a law of hexagons? She says, no, really? What? I was like, oh man, don't get him started.
He'll write a 10,000-page book about that.
What I did here is I drew just a straight line from like 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4,
Yeah.
And what I got was this image, which is like a mirror image of the path. So you go one way the first half, and then you go the same way the other half, but it's in the mirror image.
Oh man, I just had like a huge mind grenade go off I just had like a
Yeah.
that.
I have like pages. I have pages and binder papers and pages full of this stuff of me just like experimenting with it, spending hours and hours on just looking at the numbers, how they correlate, when they add
Yeah,
up, and then what harmonics have to do with that, what other people's what does Marco Rodin's work have to do with these numbers? Like
right.
hours, bro.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
awesome.
And what do you? And maybe we should do a whole show just on that, on what you've found, on your findings.
This is John Searl's findings.
No, I
I'm
know,
just
but
finding what
like,
he found, like
no,
finding it myself.
for sure. I just mean the cross correlations between different platforms and bringing different ideas together, like you're doing, is
Yeah,
really.
man. Like for the people who could see this, look at this, man. I don't even know who's ever gonna watch this far into the video. You're a soldier if you get this far.
Yep.
Yeah,
Congratulations. You get a cookie.
right. Yeah. Don't delete it. So
Yeah.
let's see. Look at these squares, and then it just goes bigger, and
Wow.
all of these add up, and it just keeps going bigger,
Huge.
and bigger, bigger, and
I've s-
bigger, and
I've
bigger,
stared at it
and
for
bigger,
hours.
and
Start to
bigger.
see patterns, right? Like you start to see crazy patterns. Like,
If people can't even see this, hold on, let's try to zoom in. It's like, and what's weird is every other square, you see there's one number in the center,
yeah.
and there's four in the center, and then there's one in the center, and then there's four in the center, and there's one in the center. So they always alternate when you go up a square. It alternates. You're gonna have a centered one, or you're gonna have a centered four.
That's
And
really
then and then
interesting.
he has different rules for a centered four versus a centered one, and like that's way beyond me at this point. But
It's definitely for a reason, that's for
other
sure.
people, there's going to be some younger people who are just going to look at it and go, "Oh, oh yeah, that means this." It's
Yeah.
just going to just click and be easy.
Yeah.
If it doesn't just click for you, you're probably not going to get it. Like me, I'm probably not going to get it because again, he's explained this to me over and over and over, and I just uh, I feel so dumb.
Well, we all, I definitely, I guess I can't speak for everybody, but I am like infinitely grateful that you're the medium between uh, Searl, because I, you're giving me a lot better of an understanding. See, I've seen all the interviews and read a lot of the stuff from Searl, but you're actually making it tangible, and you're taking it, and um, you can further along his work. You can continue his work, and that's
Well,
like
that's what eventually, yeah. But at this point, I know nothing. All I'm doing is learning. I'm like, you're either a student or a master, and I am nowhere near a master. I'm still learning how to be a student. Huh? Like,
yep, we all are. Yep.
but Fernando Morris is the guy who is taking John's work to where it's supposed to be, to where it originally intended to be, and with John Searle. So that's the beauty of it. So it's we still have John Searle. A lot of people would wish to talk to Tesla. Go back in time. Well, man, John Searle's still here. He's here now. So why not talk to him and try to at least read his work that he's already provided? Because he's still writing books. He used to be very active on Facebook and forums and stuff, talking to anybody that he could. But now he's just very engrossed in writing his books again, or still, and then yeah, he just uh, very busy man.
Yeah,
He's a busy man.
yeah. I'm thankful he does what he does. I'm
Oh,
infinitely.
one other thing that we're gonna sign off in like a couple minutes here. Um, Morningstar Energy Box is a third party that has validated different aspects of John Searl's claims. And these are PhD holding professionals who have spent over $500,000 to build their own idea of what the SEG is about and test it out. And following the work of the Russians, okay, John Searl did a lot of lectures in Germany. A lot of Russians attended those lectures and gathered a lot of information about his technology from those lectures, and then started making their own projects from that.
Right.
And the Russian guys were provided with a couple $1 million really to work on their stuff, and Morningstar Energy Box was copying what the Russians were doing, trying to, and Dr. Tom Valone, like electrogravitics research and all that stuff, very brilliant guy. He was just really just trying to find out what the deal is with the Searl technology and try to see if it's valid, and trying to go from party to party to see what he could figure out. And the more he looked into it, and the more he was saying, dang, this is something that's valid, viable, and very important.
Nice. Yeah, that's it's.
So he started this Morningstar Energy Box with Paul Murad, and this is their PDF that they put together. It cost them $500,000 in order to do the tests to be able to gather the data to write this paper. And there's a lot of weird stuff. They only got anomalies after they magnetized their stator ring differently. They said they didn't specify how, but they said the more that they spun these things, there was like 100 G's of force on their rollers, and a couple of them like disintegrated, and they figured there'd be shrapnel flung outward in a ring. Because when you spin something really fast, there's shrapnel goes out. But instead, all the shrapnel was attracted to the center, like gripped to the actual the stator ring. So there was some sort of magnetic pull that was equalizing and overpowering the centrifugal outward force. So it was constantly equalized, and they said that was very different. And it's just so. I'm trying to cram in more in the last 2 minutes, but it's just a ridiculous amount of material. Here's a 265-page PDF I put together. Got the links. Look it up.
Beautiful work.
Ask me questions, and I'll try to answer as best as I can, and take as much time as possible, to explain in context some of the stuff. This conversation was very willy-nilly, not structured at all, just really informal. But for some people who have specific questions about, the physics, the electrical engineering, the science, and the whatever, I'll try to tackle them to the best of my ability. And if I can't, I'll say I don't know, and I'll try to find out.
Awesome. Yeah, you're doing a great job. You're helping me a lot, that's for sure. Well. And for anybody else who needs the links, you can always find Jason. Go ahead, give all the links that you'd like to be contacted. And also your photo album and everything.
Yeah. Well, okay. That is at http:// No, just kidding. I'm not gonna just give out the links like that, man. Come on. I'll post the links, and then you're gonna have to click on them after they're posted. But you can reach me at facebook.com/Verbelli. My last name, Verbelli. Verbelli.
He's also got a Scribed account that's amazing. He's also got a photo bucket that you've been looking at that anybody can go on and check out for all the for all those. And he's also got a YouTube channel. 2 YouTube channels, The Real Verbs and The Real Verbs 2.
Yeah, only because some troll tried to take it down, and then it got deleted for 3 months. So I freaked out and started a new YouTube channel, re-uploaded everything onto it, and then my old one came back because they determined said troll had no standing. So then now I have 2 YouTube channels. So yeah, please visit the material. It's pretty much a duplicate of both channels. I got my
Right.
Facebook, I got the YouTube, I got the Scribed, and then probably more, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much sums it up. But yeah, so yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below the video. We'll try to answer as many as we can. Get a hold of Jason. He's the
All of
man
them.
for Surl.
I want to
Yeah,
answer all of them.
yeah. And yeah, great talk, bro. Don't go anywhere. I'm just going to stop the broadcast, and we'll
Right
catch you
on. And
next time.
sorry, guys, for the horrible structure of it all, but if you stuck with it, and right on, we'll be talking soon and try to at least get you some more info and have fun while doing it, I guess.
We're doing our best, and this is kind of just the beginning stages of hopefully something better. So we'll keep popping videos out whenever we can. And
Right
we'll
on, man. You're awesome, man. Thanks.
later, guys.